too mentally tough for anything to get me off the path of walking out of here without the win. I want to win the game. You know, tempers flare. You know, you're in the middle of the game, a game we want to win, a huge one. It is what it is. We were able to come together, and I'm happy we did.
There might be some changes coming to this channel, guys. I mean, that's what I mean by this tweet, and perhaps I'll make its own video, but to give you an idea, a lot of creators and myself are affected by the fact that broadband TV, my MCN, that usually pays us out for the views that we get on our content, is withholding our ad revenue. I don't know what this is going to mean for the channel. I don't know if I'm going to have to leave. I don't know if I'm going to have to start making content without the footage that I usually use on these videos, but I will keep you guys posted on Twitter or on Instagram or in a shorter version of a video here. But I want to let you know that despite everything going on, the thing that takes the precedent for me the most is the fact that we officially hit 700,000 subscribers. We're over 701,000 at this point, and it just means so much to me, man. I mean, I keep thinking about the day where I dropped out of dental school and I was crying on my apartment floor because I thought I had no purpose in life at the age of 24. I was very, very depressed, and you guys give me a purpose. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I do mess a lot of stuff up, but you guys are always forgiving, and you guys have always had my back since day one. But from the bottom of my heart, I just wanted to thank you guys. I don't want this intro to get too long, so now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code microphone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Yesterday, we made a huge video on the Utah Jazz game versus the New Orleans Pelicans. One of the most bizarre occurrences that I think we've ever covered on this channel. There's a lot at stake for the Minnesota Timberwolves in this particular game. Pretty much the winner of this game got the 8th seed in the play-in tournament. The reason why this is very significant is if you're an 8th seed or a 7th seed in the play-in tournament, you have 2 opportunities to win 1 game to make it into the playoffs. The team that wins the first game officially becomes the 7th seed, which would face off against the Memphis Grizzlies in this particular case in the Western Conference playoffs, and the team that loses would face off against the winner of the 9 and 10 seed to fight for the 8th seed to face off against the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference playoffs. So obviously, if you're a 7th or an 8th seed, that is significantly more beneficial because, well, that means you have 2 opportunities to get in. If you're a 9 or a 10 seed, that means you have to win 2 games in a row to become the 8th seed. Now, tensions were really flaring in this game, and as time went on, we actually got more information as to why things were so tense. We got interviews from both sides. We got tweets from Rudy Gobert. We have the video recording that we showed you in the beginning of the previous video of what Kyle Anderson said. So let's start with why things were so tense to begin with. Let's put aside the fact that this is a very important game, the most important game of the season for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But let's also talk about the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't expect to be here. This team went all in this past offseason when they traded for Rudy Gobert. And I will always say this, I said it in that video. You could go and check that video. I'll say it again here. It was a massive overpay. I mean, the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Leandro Bolmaro, Walker Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt, in addition to 4 first-round picks and a 2026 pick swap to get Rudy Gobert. If you look at Walker Kessler right now on the Utah Jazz, he looks like Rudy Gobert Jr., only he's not 30 years old and he's not getting a max contract. You don't have to be a genius to know that the Utah Jazz definitely won this trade. The Utah Jazz are giving us a masterclass in how to rebuild a team. What's even funnier is, I'm going to admit and shout out to my comments for correcting me on this and holding me accountable here. I did botch watch the additional trade that they made in order to try to make things more comfortable for Rudy Gobert, which happened at the trade deadline, I mistakenly thought that the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Jared Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley alongside D'Angelo Russell to the Los Angeles Lakers to get back Mike Conley. It was a mistake. My apologies. I haven't been sleeping very much recently. In reality, the Utah Jazz gave up Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt to get Russell Westbrook. The Lakers sent Juan Toscano Anderson, Damian Jones, and a top 4 protected 2027 first round pick to the Jazz. And the Minnesota Timberwolves straight up just traded D'Angelo Russell, a player that Karl Anthony Towns was very close with, for Mike Conley Jr. in an effort to try to get a point guard that got along with Rudy Gobert during his time with the Utah Jazz. So pretty much what the Timberwolves did was say,
hey, this Rudy Gobert experiment is not working out well, and we bet big on this Rudy Gobert experiment working out well.
So in order to try to salvage this horrible decision, let's trade away a player that is having one of his best years, despite being the 3rd or 4th option on our team, for an aging veteran point guard that worked out well with Rudy Gobert on the Utah Jazz. And to be honest, as a Laker fan, I love it. It was like a dream scenario for me at the beginning of the season, but even then, it didn't necessarily work out really well. Rudy Gobert currently is 30 years old. He is getting paid a ton of money, and I cannot emphasize that enough. It's not that he's a bad player, it's just I don't think he's worth his contract. To give you an idea, he's on year 2 of a 5-year, $205 million contract. He does have a player option, and when he's 33 years old, you could best believe that he's going to accept that player option. So I don't necessarily know what the Minnesota Timberwolves do with this contract at this point. It was their way of trying to go all in. It was the wrong way to go all in. And what's sad is they really had a nice core. I mean, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Karl Anthony Towns, if you build around that team properly, I actually did believe they could be a top 3 or top 4 seed in the West. The thing is, they made the wrong move. They sacrificed a lot of depth and a lot of assets for the wrong player, and they set up the Utah Jazz fairly nicely. Now, in the most important game of the season, things clearly got tense. Rudy Gobert was playing injured, and him and Kyle Anderson got into an argument. Now, I want you to know, coming into this, Rudy Gobert actually has discussed how he felt about the way Kyle Anderson leads the team, saying that sometimes he's a little aggressive in the way he talks, but I don't take it personally. And bro, he definitely did take it personally here, because bear in mind, Rudy Gobert was playing hurt. I'm trying to empathize with him as much as possible to see why he would just swing at his teammate like that. We have 3 reasons currently. 1, tensions are very high in the most important game of the season, and a game that the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't expect to be in. 2 is the fact that so far, Rudy Gobert wasn't the difference maker that the Minnesota Timberwolves were hoping he'd be. And 3, at least this is exclusive to Rudy Gobert, is he's playing injured. On Kyle Anderson's side, he feels like Rudy Gobert isn't being effective. So this is how the conversation went. Kyle Anderson says to Rudy Gobert, hey, why don't you block some shots? Rudy Gobert says, why don't you grab a rebound? Kyle Anderson then said, shut the fuck up, and Rudy Gobert swung at him. So following this swing, and this is, I guess, where the recap ends, primarily we got exclusive footage that I tweeted out on my Twitter of Kyle Anderson talking trash about Rudy Gobert at halftime.
Way too much on time we focus. What's wrong with y'all? I got a decision to make this.
Of course, it's important to mention that, ironically, despite this entire mess, despite Jaden McDaniels punching a hole in the wall and fracturing his hand, despite it being one of the most chaotic season finales that I think I've ever seen, the Minnesota Timberwolves won. Brandon Ingram dropped 40 plus points, but wow, I gotta give it to him. They were able to pull this one out, and now they're officially the 8th seed. Following the game, Kyle Anderson had this to say about the incident.
You know, tempers flare, you know, you're in the middle of the game, a game we want to win, a huge one. It is what it is. Happened. It's not the first time something like that has happened.
Now, of course, Rudy Gobert would also tweet out an apology to his teammates for, well, quite literally swinging at his teammates, saying, emotions got the best of me today. I should not have reacted the way I did, regardless of what was said. I want to apologize to the fans, the organization, and particularly to Kyle, who is someone that I truly love and respect as a teammate. I know what you're thinking. Yes, Rudy Gobert misspelled organization, but let's just move on here. Following this, you would think life is good. There were some analysts that gave us some takes as to what happened. My favorite one is Kendrick Perkins saying that the reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves are falling apart is because Patrick Beverley isn't there.
Okay, Patrick Beverley is not there no more to actually repair and make things come together. Now all of a sudden, You probably have guys that are not speaking to one another.
Yeah, I have no idea how he's on ESPN, and I'm working independently, but I'm here for it. Also, if you guys agree, let me know if you agree with Perk and what he said in the comment section down below. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up and making this video to begin with is something significant occurred. Now, I was joking about this in our first video on this situation, saying, oh my
God, it'd be really nice if the Minnesota Timberwolves suspended Rudy Gobert for the play-in versus the Los Angeles Lakers.
But no, it's not a joke. That's actually what they're doing. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, the Minnesota Timberwolves are suspending center Rudy Gobert. He's not traveling with the team to Los Angeles, and he won't play versus the Lakers on Tuesday in the play-in tournament. Gobert will serve a one-game suspension and is expected to return if the Wolves lose to the Lakers and play another play-in game, or advance into the Western Conference playoffs, sources said. Man, this was just such a bizarre way to handle it. I mean, it's not like the Minnesota Timberwolves have an incentive to tank anyways. It's just so bizarre to me that you would suspend one of your most important players for one of the most important games of the season. Now, Woj continues to say that the Timberwolves had no choice. They actually had to suspend Gobert for throwing a punch, but accepted that it was a shot to the chest with no intent to injure Kyle Anderson, and understood that Anderson called Gobert a bitch repeatedly on a night where Gobert was playing hurt, sources tell ESPN. So this is insane. I mean, I'm not going to necessarily hold it against the Minnesota Timberwolves for doing this. It's just something that you don't necessarily expect. You know what's really funny is I was watching the Pat McAfee show earlier, and there was a take that I actually really agreed with. If you have beef with your teammate, swing at him in the locker room. I mean, you don't have to swing at him in front of everyone and make a big deal out of it. Draymond Green swung at Jordan Poole in practice. You didn't hear anything about it until footage came out of the incident. Ironically, and we mentioned this in our previous video as well, Rudy Gobert tweeted at Draymond Green at the time of the incident saying, "Insecurity is very loud." And it looks like Draymond Green kept the receipts, because following this incident, Draymond Green replied to that tweet saying, "Insecurity is very loud." To be honest, both of these players are in a very similar situation. Both of them are very, very overpaid. Both of them are arguably the third or fourth most important players on their team. I'd say Rudy Gobert is in a much worse situation. When you give up that much capital for a player, Draymond Green was a second round pick for the Golden State Warriors, and he's a seamless fit in that team. The Warriors didn't gut out most of their team and give up 4 first round picks and a pick swap for Draymond Green. He was just a second round pick that developed very well. So this is definitely a tough pill to swallow if you're Rudy Gobert. This is definitely not ideal if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. And this is definitely a very interesting storyline that we're going to continue to follow into the offseason. If you're a Timberwolves fan, let me know what you guys think about this bizarre situation in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.